Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 5 of rebuilding a crash damaged Ducati Panigale 899. We've got a lot to do on the bike today, so starting off with draining the liquid coolant and taking off the radiators and stripping the whole front end off. Another thing that I'm kind of dreading to do is we have to check the valve clearances, which means taking off the top cap on the head and doing a whole load of adjustments and measurements. Not really looking forward to it, but still going to be exciting to do. I've got the workshop manuals downloaded, so we're going to do it properly. We're not going to cut any corners. There's a lot of cleaning and degreasing we've got to do, so we're going to wash the bike down. And at the end of the episode, something I'm most excited about is I'm going to be revealing our new powder coated wheels that we're going to collect from West London Powder Coating. Last week we took the wheels there, and originally I was going to go black because we wanted to make this bike back to OEM standard, but that's not going to happen anymore. This bike is going to be a fully custom track bike. We're going to do it up the best we can. And this is a little, and I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but just quickly for anyone who's new to the channel, this bike we bought a few weeks ago from eBay. In the UK there's an eBay page called Motomine. It's similar to Copart in America. They sell crash damaged or written off bikes, and I've never done a project like this. I've never bought a bike from Motomine, so I thought it'd be exciting to do a Ducati as the first one. It would be interesting. Throw yourself in the deep end. So I've got a Panigale 899. I paid $4,000 for it. And when you buy bikes on eBay or on Motomine, Copart, you get a few pictures and a description, but it can be hard to see things that have been done to the bike. So when we bought this bike and we got it home, there was a few things we discovered, and we started to realize that the previous owner before us used it as a track bike and probably didn't look after it that well. There was lots of bits that were neglected, dirty, greasy, and hadn't been cleaned in ages. So me and my brother kind of, as we started to take the bike apart more and more, we just come to the conclusion that we're going to take most of the parts off of it, clean them, service them, re-grease it, and then put it back together properly how it was supposed to be. There were lots of bolts and screws that were mismatched, so you would have 3 bolts that were all meant to be the same, but you would have different bolt heads, and the guys just put whatever he could in wherever he could. So there's a lot of undoing the problems and what he'd done, but it makes it exciting and it gives us lots to do. So anyway, I'm rambling on a bit. I explained most of this in the first episode. We've got lots to do, so let's get on with it. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be cleaning the bike, which means taking off a few more parts. I'm also going to be removing the bottom radiator because ever since I took the radiator guard off and I see how dirty it was, I've been wanting to clean the radiator. I'm not even sure if it's worth it. I was thinking about just buying a new radiator because there's so many of them that are bent, but I'm going to try and resalvage it just to save some money. To take the radiator off, there's a lot of plastics that I've got to come off. This is the fan that blows onto the radiator, so I'm going to disconnect it, undo the bolts, take the fan away, and then there are 6 bolts holding the radiator on. But before we do that, I'm going to drain the fluid. We're going to be doing our own valve check on this bike, so an area that's got to be very clean is the top of this valve cover, so that when we open it, no dirt gets inside the engine. Something that I've noticed about working on this Ducati compared to working on the KTM is there's a lot more layers. This bike's very compact, so to take anything off, you've really got to take lots of stuff off to get to other bolts. Working on the KTM, there's a lot more space. It's a lot bigger bike, so you would expect it, but it's a lot easier to work on because of it. The reason why I'm saying it is because my original plan was to take this whole unit off in one and just undo 1, 2, 3 bolts, and this whole thing would come off. Okay guys, finally I got the fan off with the air intake. It's absolutely covered in dirt, so I'm going to give these parts a clean. Now I've got much better access to the back of the radiator. I'm just going to decide whether I'm going to remove it to clean it or I'm going to just keep it on the bike. You know, we've come this far with the teardown, we might as well take it all off because there's a lot of parts that need cleaning. Now that I have the fan removed with the plastics that were at the bottom of the bike, I'm going to drain the coolant by removing this little screw here, and I've got a bucket ready to catch it all. So I've undone the bolt and no coolant's come out, but I think the whole system is vacuum pressured, so I'm going to undo the top cap on the other side and hopefully it should drain out. The plan to bring this back to life is I'm going to soak it in warm, soapy water just to break down a lot of the dirt in between the fins. Can't be too aggressive with radiators because the fins are really delicate. So I'm going to soak it in warm water, try and clean out as much as I can, and then blow it through with an air compressor. Now I've got the radiator in a tray. I'm going to pour some warm soapy water into the tray and leave it to soak for half an hour. The radiator's been soaking in water for about 30 minutes. I'm not going to try and bother cleaning all of the individual stones out of all of the fins. What's important is most of the mud has been cleaned out so the radiator can circulate air. Something I noticed which is quite cool is this radiator is made by WP. I'm going to unscrew these 3 screws on the fan so I can disconnect it and clean the plastic that surrounds it. I'm also going to give the underbelly panel a good clean as well. All of the parts have come out really nice. All the grease has been cleaned off of them. This rubber here was black. It was completely covered in dirt, so they come out nice. The radiator still doesn't look great, but the main thing is it's been cleaned. It doesn't actually matter how bad it looks. All that matters is that it works well. And the pipe come out nice too. It come out kind of like the other pipes. Now we're going to use the ratchet straps that I installed in the last episode to the ceiling to lift the back of the bike up. Because another big job we need to do on this bike is remove the rear linkage, which means we need to suspend the rear subframe. If you didn't see it, in the last episode I installed these two hooks onto the ceiling, which means we can put ratchet straps on them, which is really handy because it kind of acts like a lift if you ever need to get the back of the bike up in the air. The plan with the rear linkage on this bike is to remove it. We've bought a new one off of eBay. This metal piece is what the crash protector screws into, so a long bolt would go all the way from here through here and the crash bar would be on the end here. But in the accident it bent off and snapped. Our plan is to remove all of this and get this re-welded so it's like new again. As I already explained, when we first bought the bike it had these anodized red bits on which we didn't think were original Ducati parts. But after putting paint stripper on the top yoke and a few other bits, we realised that he's just painted the original Ducati bits. So unfortunately, we did go ahead and order some Ducati parts off eBay already. So this will be the rear linkage. So it's a bit unfortunate. This is another part that's going to have to go back on eBay because once we put a bit of paint stripper on the red there, I think it's going to come up just as good as this new one that we've brought. So this part, this whole linkage that I've got in my hand, brand new from Ducati, is about 700 quid. But we managed to get this one off eBay for 80, which was a bit of a bargain. And now for something a little bit more exciting. I just got the wheels back from the powder coaters and I can't wait to show you what colour we've gone for. But before we do that, I just want to quickly explain that the original plan with the bike was to make the wheels black because we wanted to go with an OEM colour. But after deciding that we're going to make it a race bike, we're just going to go with a more exciting colour. Unfortunately though, there's been a massive disaster with these wheels, a big problem, which I'm going to show you after. First, we're going to just show you the colour, and then we're going to get on to what's wrong with these wheels, which is not good. I just realised you've probably been able to tell the colour through the see-through wrapping and a little bit that's been exposed there. But as you can probably tell, we have gone for a Ducati Roman Gold. Whoa. These wheels look absolutely amazing in this colour. Really happy with the colour and the finish of the wheels. As you can see, they look amazing. And I can't wait to put them on the bike with a brand new tricolore panel set. It's going to look absolutely sick. Yeah, the wheels look great, but I can hear you saying through the screen, what's happened to them? What's wrong with the wheels? If I take one over here, I can show you a better example of what's wrong. So this, as you all know, is a wheel bearing, and the wheel bearing is meant to fit in the bearing housing nice and snug. Now if I take this wheel bearing, it just drops in. Alright, now that I've got the wheel laid down, I can show you a little bit easier what's wrong with the wheels. First of all, I'm just going to quickly explain that when we took these wheels to the powder coaters, there was about 6 or 7 layers of paint on it before, which might explain why this problem wasn't exposed earlier. But essentially what's happened is a really thin layer of material has been taken away from the inside of the bearing housing, which means our bearings no longer fit. They're too small by a tiny little fraction. As most of you know, these bearings need to be a snug fit, and unfortunately these bearings just slip straight in. There's even a tiny little bit of play in there. Now, as far as I'm aware, there are only 2 ways we can fix this problem. The first one is to throw the wheels away and buy new ones, which we don't want to do because that is very expensive, especially after we've just had these powder coated this beautiful gold. That leaves us with the second only option that I know of how to fix these. And basically we would need to find a machine shop, and we'd have to get it re-sleeved, which means somebody with a lathe would have to bore out the inner bearing housing so it would make it a bit larger, and then you'd fit a sleeve, which then the bearing would fit into the sleeve nice and snug. Recreating a new bearing housing basically, because this one is too big. And it's on both wheels as well, it's the same thing. Now, I can hear a lot of you saying, how did this happen? Surely it must have been the when you got them sandblasted and powder coated, it's damaged the wheels. And for sure, I think that could be a possibility. The guy who powder coated our wheels is he's quite a professional, and he's done wheels before. He knows what he's doing. So I'd be really surprised if it was him that done it. The reason why I think it wasn't an issue before, or it wasn't exposed, was because there were so many layers of paint hiding it and keeping the bearings in there. Another thing that kind of backs up this theory, when we took the rear wheel off this bike, the rear axle nut was crazy tight, like so tight beyond any tightness that you would normally do. Maybe the previous owner was doing the axle up so tight because he had a worry that the bearings might have come loose and it was just to hold it all in together. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I could blame the powder coat guy. I could blame the previous owner. The fact of the matter is we've got this issue to deal with, which means we're going to have to find a machine shop, someone who's good with a lathe, so they can re-sleeve the bearing housings on the wheels. It's bittersweet really, because the wheels are beautiful and I was excited to get the bearings in them and to put new stuff in them. And unfortunately, we're going to have to go through another process of getting them re-sleeved. So this was the old sprocket that come on the bike, non-branded, really heavy, and just generally a piece of shit. And again, these cheap anodized nuts that went on it too. One of the reasons why I've been so excited to get the wheels back together is because of all the little bits that go on it. So that's the old sprocket. Now this is the new one that we've got. Look how cool that sprocket looks. And it's going to go with the wheels. And to match it up, we've also got these titanium wheel nuts. But as I already explained, we're going to have to get the wheels sorted before we put any of this new stuff on the bike. A massive shame about the wheels, especially after we got them powder coated. It's not what you want, but it's just another hiccup, and it's just something that happens when you buy a bike off of eBay. And as I explained earlier in the episode, we're now going to remove the rear linkage, lift the back of the bike up in the air and clean all behind the engine. And that is it for today's episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. In the next episode, we're going to be pretty much doing everything that we said in the beginning of this episode, because I never got around to doing it. There was just too much stuff to do on this bike. Now that we have the rear linkage off the bike, it really does feel like it's in a million different pieces, but it gives us a good chance to go over everything and wash everything and start from the beginning. I'm trying to keep the videos under 20 minutes long, so it's all just going to have to wait till the next one. And believe it or not, I don't actually show everything on camera. There's a million things that happen off camera that I'm doing on the bike. I just don't film everything. I try to film all the main stuff, but there is a ton of little things that happen in the background that you don't see. And that is it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.